June 17, 2026, marks a collision of events that expose structural shifts in how technology platforms maintain control over their ecosystems. In gaming, Microsoft is walking away from 3 decades of console exclusivity by bringing its flagship franchise, Halo, to the PlayStation 5 Pro. In security, the RoguePlanet zero-day exploit has effectively turned Windows' primary defense mechanism, Microsoft Defender, into a tool for unauthorized system access. And in finance, nearly $2 billion in institutional capital has bypassed the established Ethereum ecosystem in favor of the XRP Ledger's tokenization infrastructure. These events highlight a shared reality. Proprietary moats, whether in software distribution, vulnerability disclosure, or capital settlement, are losing their effectiveness. Success now depends on how quickly an organization can operate outside of its own silos. The traditional console model relied on hardware lock-in. You build a closed ecosystem and use exclusive software to gatekeep users. Microsoft launching Halo Campaign Evolved on the PS5 Pro represents the final breakdown of that model. The decision is driven by a massive disparity in reach. There are currently 28 million Xbox Series consoles in the market, compared to Sony's 60 million PlayStation 5 units. This financial model compares the margins of hardware-locked loyalty against multi-platform software scale. If Halo sells 5 million copies on PlayStation, Microsoft grosses $300 million. Even after paying Sony's 30% platform fee, Microsoft nets $210 million in software profit. To reach that same $210 million profit through hardware, Microsoft would need to sell 3.5 million Xbox consoles, a difficult task given that hardware is often sold at or near production cost. This shift allows Microsoft to stop subsidizing hardware and instead focus on its primary revenue engine, Game Pass. By offering the game on the competitor's platform while keeping it free for subscribers, they maximize sales without losing their core services value proposition. It's the same strategy that transformed Microsoft's enterprise business. They stopped competing for the phone in your pocket and focused on making Azure and Office 365 the standard on every device, regardless of the manufacturer. When multi-platform subscription margins drastically outpace the profit from a single piece of hardware, the walled garden becomes an economic liability. While Microsoft is opening its gaming gates by choice, its security gates are being forced open. Just hours after the massive June security update, a researcher released RoguePlanet, an exploit targeting fully patched systems. This exploit bypasses standard defenses to achieve system-level privileges, the highest possible level of control on a Windows machine. The vulnerability targets Microsoft Defender's own file quarantine process. It isn't a flaw in a third-party app. It's a flaw in the very software meant to act as the final line of defense. The attack relies on a race condition. This is a microscopic window of time where the operating system is processing 2 commands simultaneously. In this case, identifying a file and moving it to a secure folder. If an attacker can manipulate the file system during that fraction of a second, the trusted security tool becomes the mechanism for the breach. The proprietary secure zone is precisely what creates the vulnerability. To see how this works, we look at the path Defender uses for quarantine. The attack begins by intentionally triggering the real-time protection engine with a malicious file. In Stage 1, Defender identifies the threat and begins moving the file into its protected directory. Stage 2 occurs during the race condition window. The attacker executes a junction point swap while the system is still processing the move. This swap acts as a redirection. It tricks Defender into thinking it's placing the file in a secure location, when it is actually pointing to a folder the attacker controls. Because Defender operates with system privileges, it places the file in the attacker's folder with full system-level ownership. In Stage 3, the attacker overwrites that file with their own code and invokes Windows error reporting. The system executes it with full privileges, completely bypassing local administrator restrictions. Protecting against this requires moving beyond standard antivirus. Organizations must deploy application allow listing, tools that prevent any unauthorized code from running, regardless of whether the system thinks the file is quarantined or not. Traditional perimeter security fails when built-in administrative tools can be inverted. Resilience now requires monitoring the behavior of the system itself. rather than trusting the walls built around it. This shift from proprietary control to specialized performance is also accelerating in institutional finance. Billions are moving into real-world asset tokenization, turning traditional bonds and credit into digital tokens. This chart shows 90-day net inflows. The XRP ledger has attracted $1.9 billion in tokenized assets, outpacing Ethereum's $1.6 billion. Institutions are prioritizing the ledger's specialized features, settlement times under 5 seconds, and fees that are a fraction of a cent. For Treasury bond settlements, these technical advantages outweigh the benefit of being in the larger Ethereum ecosystem. But we have to put this in context. Ethereum still holds over 50% of the total market share, with $17 billion in total tokenized value. Its network effect remains a significant barrier for any challenger. There is also a data discrepancy regarding where this XRP volume is coming from. This line chart isolates wallet flows by exchange. In a single week, the South Korean exchange Upbit saw its share of global XRP flows surge to 31%, while flows on US exchanges like Coinbase dropped to 0. This suggests that while institutional pilots are real, much of the current volume is driven by retail speculation in a single geographic market, rather than a global institutional migration. High-speed networks are finding specific niches for high-velocity settlements, but the maturity and liquidity of the broader ecosystem still act as the primary anchor for institutional capital. Microsoft's pivot, the Defender exploit, and the shift in crypto capital point to the same reality. Exclusive, proprietary control is becoming harder to maintain. To address RoguePlanet's vulnerabilities, organizations must restrict local admin access and implement application allow listing. You cannot rely on a single security vendor's internal quarantine to keep you safe. For those moving into asset tokenization, use dual pilots. Benchmarking high-speed networks against mature ecosystems provides the data to choose a primary platform. Finally, prioritize software and procurement strategies that focus on platform agnosticism. Hardware-locked solutions and proprietary silos are increasingly vulnerable to both market shifts and technical exploits. As proprietary moats lose their value, long-term success will be defined by how well an organization can integrate across different platforms and secure its data through behavioral monitoring rather than simple exclusion.